You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learned on how they both market and grow their music income. Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels monetize music. Today, we are joined by Michael M.J. Jacob, the co-founder and CEO of Lemonade.ai, a pioneering company dedicated to transforming the music industry through ethical AI technology. With a background as a musician himself, MJ is passionate about empowering creators and ensuring their rights are protected in the evolving landscape of artificial intelligence. He is joined by Anirudh, and I think I'm saying that right. I'm going to probably be very corrected very shortly, the Chief Science Officer at Lemonade.ai, where he leads the development of innovative AI tools designed to enhance the creativity of music. With a strong background in music technology, Ani combines his experience in artificial intelligence and music to create solutions that empower musicians and artists worldwide. MJ, Ani, how are you both today?
Incredible intro. Just to chime in for a second, Ani is also a co-founder of Lemonade. I want to make sure that titles are always important in terms of, the impact to the company. But I'm doing good. I'm tuning in from New York City. I got my cold brew and looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ani?
Yeah, beautiful intro. Thank you so much, Nick. It's, so since you asked, it's actually Anirudh. And Ani is what my family and friends have always called me, so I just go by Ani. Joining in from Boston, so about a 4-hour train ride away from New York. Also here with my hot coffee, freshly brewed, ready to roll.
Nice. So we have the two co-founders here drinking their coffees. Really, I'm instead having a herbal tea, but I'm normally on the coffees. Right. So
time zones make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into it. For those that haven't heard about Lemonade.ai, can you talk us about how your technology is helping artists and labels create more marketable music?
Yeah, totally. I'll jump in first, and Ani, feel free to add some more color or your own spin to it. So I almost want to take the listeners on the journey for a moment. I think the majority of y'all are music makers or in the music industry, but for those who may not have made their first song before, if you're not driving, feel free to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes and just walk through the whole journey and the whole workflow here. So imagine you want to create your own song for the first time. How do you do it? Well, typically, number one, you have to get what's called a digital audio workstation. A digital audio workstation, there's so many out there. There's like Logic Pro, there's FL Studio, there's Ableton. Almost every song you hear today on the radio for the past couple of decades have been used with a digital audio workstation. So say you're a novice producer or even advanced producer, and you open up one of these digital audio workstations. Step two is you open up an instrument, let's say a piano, and you push a key on your keyboard that then makes a sound on the piano. And to me, this is like an incredible dopamine effect of connecting you with actually creating music yourself. But if you don't know music theory or you don't actually know how to play piano, this is where things can get kind of difficult. And this is where Lemonade jumps in really nicely, because we don't want you to lose that connection with actually creating music. So let's say you open up Lemonade on the right-hand side of your screen and you have your digital audio workstation on the left-hand side. When you open up Lemonade, you actually have the ability to select between a bunch of different AI models. And these AI models, it's not important that they're AI, it's inspirational models. So you could choose a specific genre, let's say pop, trap, jazzy vibes. You can pick specific moods. Do you want something chill? You want something uplifting? You can pick a key or a scale. Whatever you're interested in generating, you can go ahead and click that tag. You click on generate, and then within a few seconds, you're able to filter through several different options of inspirational snippets for you. So then once you find a melody you actually like, You then simply favorite it and drag it over to your digital audio workstation. And lo and behold, that piano that you were just using that you didn't know how to actually bring life into, Lemonade has brought life into it. And now it feels as if you have your own melody in your own digital audio workstation. So at this point, of course, you can open your eyes. But what I want you to realize here is Lemonade is the tool for people who actually want to make their own music, right? It's completely integrated into the workflow. And on top of that, where we really believe in empowering artists. So I mentioned AI, which again isn't the important part, but what is important is we do things ethically. We actually work with artists directly. We're almost like a little AI music label. We're not officially a music label, but the way to look at it is we actually partner with hand-selected artists and create models based on their behalf that we actually get a revenue share in together as well. So zooming out, it's really an inspirational tool that's meant for people who want to make music. But Ani, feel free to jump in if there's any things you want to add.
No, I think that was beautifully put. That's it. Yeah.
Nice. So let's stick on just very quickly on the production side of things. Is this app run separately, or can you integrate it as a plugin inside Ableton and Logic? Or
Yeah,
yeah, how does that
yeah,
side of it work?
exactly. So it was intentionally designed almost to be as easy as install as an app like Spotify. So if you're brand new to making music, you can just go to lemonade.ai/download, download it, double click, and it's there. It's a standalone application. But at the same time, we also wanted to make sure we could integrate into the advanced producers workflow. So we do have a bridge as well. So that bridge is an audio unit or a VST3 for those producers on the call, or just like engineers. So you can go ahead and open that within your track and your DAW, and it peers directly to Lemonade. So whenever you click generate in Lemonade, the MIDI sounds can be demoed with your actual sound VSTs.
That's incredible. That's what I was hoping you were going to say. Just because so much of modern day music is around soundscapes, creating your own sounds. So, I think being able to audition your melodies with your own sounds super important. So, yeah, that's amazing that it's in there. Now, you have something called the Collab Club as well, and it's a way of providing you revenue streams for producers. Am I right? Can you talk me through how
Yeah.
it works?
How about this? I'll touch on the business aspect of it, and Ani, why don't you touch a little bit more on maybe the AI or science side of it? Um, but yeah, so the whole idea of Collab Club, even the name is whenever an artist works with another artist, you're like, "Yo, you want to collab?" So we were like, Lemonade's mission is really to be the sauciest AI company. So like we're genuinely integrated within the culture and within the communities. Like I grew up a rapper. Ani grew up a producer. So we were just making music our entire life, you know? So whenever we thought about how do we actually collaborate with artists, the name Collab Club just came to mind where we're like, oh, well, technically we're an AI model that is collaborating with an artist's catalog. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. That last thing I just said, a picture taking an AI model and training it on a producer's catalog. And as a result, you now have an AI model that can generate melodic ideas that resemble what that producer would be making in their studio. So the best way to picture it is as if you're making beats and you have that producer sitting next to you, like, yo, what kind of C minor melody would you create? You hit generate and it's trained on their catalog to be able to do that. So that's the conceptual idea of Collab Club. And then one other thing to call out on the revenue model, each artist actually gets a 40% revenue share for every subscription, which actually means they're also the majority profit owner of each model, of each subscription as well. So that was big for us because, while every other AI music company is out here trying to take the very fast and break things approach of like train on as much data as possible, we're taking as slow and as non-scalable of an approach you can imagine of like meeting with direct artists, like jumping on like months of phone calls. We're actually getting dinner with one of the artists this Friday out in Denver. But the point is like actually being humans first, connecting first, and being able to build trust together. Then we're able to actually like, work with them to train these models and things of that nature. So that's why we were like, there's no way we could not give them a massive revenue share for
Mm.
partnering with them. This.
So So how does that 40% work? So I'm a big time producer, and I imagine I send you 100 of my tracks that I've done, and you guys integrate it into your system. And then my brother comes along and he's like, right, I'm going to use your system. And if so, what you're saying is if anything he produces using my producer, I get 40%. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
how does the
that's
mechanics of that work? Like when
yeah.
it's streaming,
So
like,
let's go a layer deeper than that. I love that question. So first and foremost, each model is a subscription-based model, right? So let's say we got the Nick model within the Lemonade platform. And we know Nick's genres are X, Y, and Z. And that's why we subscribe to your model for $9.99, right? So you get a 40% revenue share on every single subscription there, which by the way, we already have over hundreds of subscriptions in just a matter of like 30 days of launch. So people are already starting to make money. So that's layer one. But layer two, for those who are like part of the labels and part of the music business, this is great to know. We also realize that like it's important that these artists don't lose their integral IP that trained these models. So you can set your own producer terms as well when it comes to if you use one of Nick's melodies in a song and it ends up being the next Dua Lipa track that gets billions of streams, you have the ability to set terms on your model. It's based on per producer. We don't enforce that in any way, shape, or form in terms of setting anything uniform. But you can say, I want 5% of the publishing if you use any of my melodies on top of the subscription, for example. You can go as extreme as you want in terms of what is the ownership, but at that point, it's more so how many people do you actually want using your model with those terms and conditions. So,
is there anybody else who's doing this in the marketplace right now?
I believe, and I'm going to plant a flag and say this, and we'll fact check it later. I believe we are the first ever compositional melody generator in the market. There's other companies out there that are doing AI based, artist based AI models, but I believe they're more in like the timbre transfer space or like audio effects. But when it comes to like generating melodies and like actual compositions, I believe we're the first one to do it.
Mm. So in a way, you're sort of offering producers, hey, create a AI producer version of yourself, and then you can people can subscribe to it for $10 a month. You get 40% of that, and everyone can collab with you, and you'll provide. That's what the Collab Club is providing as a platform.
Yeah, exactly. And last thing to call out, what we're excited about is like we're still very early, like we got a few producers that are, we very intentionally sourced them because we wanted them to be like legitimate voices in the space and people that were even patient enough to learn about the process more. But we're interested in the world of like creating so many more artist-based models. And it's not just for so we can help inspire the rest of the world, it's so we can inspire the artists themselves, it's interesting the amount of people that have reached out that are like, hey, I want to create my own AI twin that only I can interact with. That like I'm not even selling in a marketplace. I would love to just collaborate with myself because it's the best way to like get out of a creative rut without losing authentically who I am. So those are the technologies that our team and like Ani had spearheaded in building. So we have the ability to train your own model. And to anyone listening, the capabilities right now, we do have the ability to train your own model and keep it in a private environment, or we have the ability to train your own model and you can then almost lease your model out in this collab club subscription based model. So both models exist. The technology exists for both. We're just still working through kind of like the go to market plans and how the business model
This
shake out.
is this is incredible. Like I've got so many DJ producers who have got 15-year back catalog of music that they'd be like, essentially you'd say, well, look, create a version of yourself, and then they could just say to let's like, there's a guy I know who's quite big in the drum and bass world. Hey, want to collab with me? Subscribe. Bish bosh bash.
Exactly.
Um,
And Nick, so you're a musician and we're talking to majority an audience of musicians and they hopefully get it. But here's an anecdote about Collab Club and why I think it's beautiful. Last night I was presenting like a quick demo to a group of like 50 people, 50, 60 people here in Boston. It's like a meetup for people interested in AI. All sorts of people, like people not hardly any musicians there, but like AI practitioners, researchers, and whatnot. And just like general folk interested in AI. And when I was demoing them and I told them about Kato, oh yeah, he's produced for Snoop Dogg, and like just giving them examples of famous artists that they knew, Mantra, like he's produced for Dua Lipa and like whatnot, and just letting them know exactly what's up. At some point, towards the end of it, when I was getting questions from the audience, someone started their question with this. So it sounds to me that you guys have taken a different approach to some of the other popular companies, and he named those companies, and he's like, uh, and it looks to me that you guys are not trying to replace the musician. You're trying to accompany them, give them. And I was like, enhance them. And he's like, exactly. And this was not even like me saying that, because we say that internally quite a bit, and also to people who understand that way, that that's not collab club is here to like enhance you, to like be like a little tool in your arsenal. It's not here to replace the musicians, but to see somebody who's a non-musician just be able to look at collab club and be like, oh, this is a paradigm shift. I get it. I see what's up there. That's quite validating. And that's like the anecdote I wanted to share, that's like the whole
Mm.
paradigm shift that we actually started to work on, and why we took this approach, as opposed to like, what MJ is saying, launching with the train your own model approach, where everybody can do that. Hopefully, eventually, people will have that option open, and we have enough resources to support all of it in the future, near medium term future. We
Mm.
wanted to launch with the most impactful set of producers, and couldn't be happier with this bunch of like 4 absolute stellar cast that we have on our website. But
Well, you know
yeah,
what? So I've got so many more questions, but then why don't we segue? So can you go through who are the top 5 artists that, if you had to name drop, well, who are the top 5 artists that you've got currently where I can go in and subscribe and start collabing with them?
I mean, I can't even believe this that I'm saying this, like, let alone being on calls with these absolute producers. We got to work with them, and I talked about some, technical stuff as well that we went through with them. But the 4 artists that we launched Collab Club with, the starting 4, the big 4, is Kato on the track. He's produced for people like, I'm just reading off our website. The resume is insane. Snoop Dogg, Jack Harlow, Ice Cube, Jordan Lucas. We have Kavi. So Kato is more on the trap hip hop side. Kavi, we have he's covering the R&B soul side of things, and he's produced for 21 Savage, Future, and whatnot. Mantra is more of a pop sound, and he's produced for Rihanna, Dua Lipa, Bad Bunny, I believe, and of course DJ Payne, more on the neo soul side.
DJ Payne one.
DJ Payne one, more on the neo soul side, and like very smooth sounds. One of my favorite models to use. I've been producing a lot with it recently, and he's of course done songs for like 50 Cent, Lil Baby. Yeah, you can go check out their whole resume. It's mad.
Amazing. Can't wait till you get Pharrell on the system though. That will be pretty
Oh
cool.
my God, I can't believe you said that. MJ and I, we say that once a week actually to each other.
Neither can Ani. Oh, well, funny enough, I feel like he won't mind me name dropping him, but Lex Luger has been a big fan of Lemonade for a long time.
Oh wow, that's a
We've
big
been,
name.
we've been connected for probably a year and a half, and he is just a homie at this point. We've done so many FaceTime calls or whatnot. So I can't tell you what's coming next, but we'll just say there was a close connection to the artist you just dropped, Nick. So it's a dream to get Pharrell. If anyone from Pharrell's team is listening, hit us up. But yeah, that would be the dream.
So let's keep on the kind of technical side. Can you just give me a brief rundown of like, if I do want to train, like what's the minimum requirement, or like how many songs does it need to be trained on, or how does it get trained on to get something of value? Can you just sort of elaborate on that, Arnie?
Yeah. So yeah, I can give you a little bit of like under the hood of how we actually went about with these 4 producers, and it's an evolving sort of technical requirements. But we train our models to produce and output something known as a MIDI file. right? Which all most musicians are very comfortable with and understand. Uh, Variety of reasons why we do this. First of all, it gives the freedom to the music producer to do a lot more with the outputs of the AI model and actually change notes and whatnot. Collab with Collab Club. So that what we've also done is we've taken these 4-bar MIDI outputs of our AI model. So let's say if the Kato AI model produces a 4-bar, 8-bar loop, which is a MIDI loop, now it also is audioized using presets selected by Kato. So it's in Kato's sound as well. So like very trap, imagine trap, hard hitting horns that Kato selected, put on top of his MIDI that the AI model output. How did we train this? So that was a whole process. MIDI, so the number of 4-bar, 8-bar loops, MIDI loops that we require per producer varies quite a bit. It depends on their style. So think of AI as a little child, right? If somebody has super complex structures going on where they have little runoffs, which are chromatic, they have little chord changes and borrowed chords from other keys and scales. Now, we need a lot more examples of those for the little child to teach that, like how to do that correctly. You can't just be going chromatic every chance you get. You have to do it at the right time and it hits beautifully well. So you need more examples for that. Whereas some structures, which are so simple and so beautiful, but technically speaking, you know that you're going to be within the scale, a child might be able to pick that up sooner, albeit like equally beautiful sounding, right? Equally beautifully hard hitting. So it's not as much about the content itself. It's about technical details of like what the model needs to learn. If it's a small child, so I couldn't give you an exact number right now, but let's say a good starting point, technically speaking, for me is to start with like let's say 500, and then we can go from there. It may be less, maybe more, but it would have to we would have to see depending on the style and the producer and actually analyze the data and go from there and train the AI model, and then it starts outputting stuff and then you rate it and we go back and forth and we have this beautiful process between AI and the artist working together to fine tune the model, and we come up with something beautiful that you guys are experiencing with Collab Club then.
So is that 500 tracks or 500
500 MIDI files.
MIDI files, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So I'd say if I've got a track and it's got, I don't know, for argument's sake, 30 MIDI files, that's, yeah.
That's 30 files.
Divided by,
Yeah,
right.
that's 30. Exactly. So that's 30. And that's all of that is useful information, because you might think that, you might ask me that in the same track, right, in the same song, let's say you have 30 MIDI tracks, there might be melodies, there might be counter melodies, there might be chord structures that might be going. All of them are in your style. So what the model is doing is really trying to understand Nick's style from all of this. So all of that is useful information, as long as they're not repetitions, because if you have a MIDI file that's doing the same thing on the horns and a piano, well, if you look at the MIDI, they're the same. So you don't learn much from there. As long as they're different MIDI files, that's fair game.
Mm. And how does it work with, do you guys at the moment do any lyric-based stuff? Like I want to work with this producer who also does singing or rapping, and, you know, how does that side of it work?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're tapping a little bit into kind of even the origin stories of Lemonade with that question. But personally, growing up a rapper, and this is just a personal opinion, not saying in the future we may not consider if it's a useful thing to artists, then we may implement it. I think that's the North Star. But for me, growing up a rapper, I feel like lyrics were always so personal, and to have a lyric generator or something of that nature, one, it wasn't a hard problem to solve for, because like large language models like ChatGPT, for example, could already do it. And to be clear, you know, to brag on Ani and our science team, like we have proprietary models that we have for generating these MIDI files. So it's not like we're just taking 500 MIDI and feeding it to some ChatGPT model that is then able to output things, right? So we don't do lyric generation right now for two reasons. One, not necessarily sure it's a real problem that artists want to solve. But primarily, number two, it's not even necessarily a like deep enough challenge to go after that other tools cannot do very quickly and very easily. And that's one last thing I want to call out on this exact question, which is like we want to genuinely change the way that AI and music creation are interacting in a way that's genuinely useful. We're not a company that just throws a pretty front end up on like any open source model we can find and just starts selling it, right? And that's part of like the reason for why we're not getting deep into lyric generation. But I'll call it out if there's ever any like interesting interaction that artists reach out to us to say like, hey, like it's great you guys do melodic generation, but if you can pair words on top of that because it's a grand problem that artists have, which I don't think it is, it's not something that we wouldn't entertain.
Gotcha. So there is a big difference between, say, what you're doing, what companies like Udo or Suno are doing, which is very much like type a prompt and then it spits out an entire piece of music.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like the tagline for Lemonade is we're the company for people. Sorry, we are the tool for musicians who actually want to make their own music, right? And the key word is actually want to make their own music. So if you go to Suno, if you go to Udio and you're typing things into a prompt, no hate or no shame. But in terms of the I did this factor, it's not very high. Right. You typed in maybe some lyrics or you typed in a prompt and you hit generate and you kind of get what you get. We intentionally want you getting into the digital audio workstation and we intentionally want you choosing your sounds, choosing your arrangement, and maybe even making some tweaks that really make it you. But we're really a workflow tool for people who want to make music rather than right now any like full song generation and just based off a prompt.
No, and I completely agree. And I think like it's terrible that those do exist to some point because it's just flooding the market with music that isn't really generated by true humans being inspired by something, and it's clogging stuff up. And and I do know behind the scenes there are like the Spotify's are like, how are we going to have a differentiation between what's being done by AI, which is done by humans? And it can exist, but I think they need to exist in different realms.
Nick, can I go off for just 1 second on this exact point? Do you know how much it costs to generate a song right now on Suno?
The amount of electricity used to power 5 houses for a month.
That's a smart answer. So from a consumer point of view, it costs 2 cents to generate a song, right? That drives me crazy. If anyone is an artist or a musician, that should drive you crazy because what happens when a product becomes that cheap to create? Right? It commoditizes the entire thing. So now if we can even forecast looking into a future where music is a cheapened thing and it's like, I don't know, like, any other thing that's not an art anymore, it's a really unfortunate world that we may be heading into. And that's part of the reason why we're so passionate about, can you guys still hear me? Okay, I think Ani for but that's part of the reason we're super passionate about doing things ethically and doing it in this like crawl, walk, run fashion, because we want to be super intentional to, yes, we want the AI technology to continue to grow and help artists, but we want to make sure that artists still stay front and center and they still have control over their music. They still have control over how much is it going to cost for me to sell this thing or like monetize on this or whatever, because it is people's livelihoods at the end of the day we're talking about here. And the last element of this, which is why it makes the whole, quote unquote, unethical route so terrible, is because not only does it cost 2 cents a song to generate, but it's off the basis of a catalog of thousands of artists who had their data stolen. Right. I'm not saying Suno did that. I know there's lawsuits out and the verdict's not out on that situation. But the overall point is there are AI music companies that have stole a bunch of data, train algorithms, and now they're, selling their product to others that are now able to make their own music for 2 cents a song. And that's the world we're trying to combat against.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess, like that's I think one area that's going to really affect, I wanted to get your feedback on this as well, is like, outside just what you guys are doing in these other AI generating programs, what what impact do you think it's going to have on the music licensing and the royalties in the future? I mean, I sort of I can guess what you're going to say, but I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, Ani, welcome back. Do you want to go first? You got thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I had to take a break as soon as I saw Nick's Liverpool mug. I was like, "Oh my God, let me walk away for a second." I'm kidding, Nick. I'm kidding. Liverpool is not as bad.
I'm actually an Arsenal supporter. I just
What?
there's just not enough
I
bugs in the office.
that's this. Oh my God! If only I knew that from the beginning. I'm an Arsenal guy through and through.
I feel like we should cut this bit out of the otherwise we'll go on the thing because I'm imagine you watched the game on Saturday and
Of course.
to the results of last year that was a win. But let's move let's go to goes to
Yeah,
side.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get
Sorry.
So back music licensing.
Yeah, yeah.
What yeah,
My
I guess what do you think all this is going to have on the impact of that? Because I guess what I'm where I'm going with is if you are someone now who produces music for like TV ads or where you're licensing it for those types of applications or games, you know, do you feel that that's going to be severely impacted in the coming years, or there is a way that it cannot? Maybe and Lemonade might be able to mitigate some of the I guess job loss and creation around for these types of producers.
yeah. That's a heavy question, and I think so. MJ and I, we've been talking about this quite a bit as well, as you can probably imagine. Um, I want to start off with saying nobody knows. This is such a changing landscape every single day. Um, Even if we don't want to, like, it's sad, but like a lot of it also depends on the outcomes of certain lawsuits in place, because that's going to change the way laws and rules are put in place and cited by the outcomes of these lawsuits going forward. I would say this though, that already we're starting to see a lot of automated generation stuff seep into our everyday content. So a lot of TikToks, a lot of reels uh, have music which is generated by AI nowadays, and we don't even realize. And if that's any trend, then music, which is just sort of, I wouldn't call it like a placeholder, but just supporting the content it's around. So basically, the world of like sync licensing, that seems to be like the first domino in this realm of like what's actually affected by AI music to me. And but at the same time, when we're looking at music that is generated by the artist and makes the Billboard top charts, I feel like there's more than just generation quality. There's more than just like, the audio that you hear. You're actually listening to an artist, you're listening to their story, you're listening to some new innovations in terms of the new technique, like in even hip hop, the new kind of 808 sound that somebody is like innovating with. That is like what human creativity is all about. And one thing is for sure, and I leave this with my general idea, or like my general perspective, with machine learning and AI techniques kind of getting so good at production, it's forcing humans to also reflect and hold on to their own core creativity a lot more. So it's forcing humans to be more human, because wherever you're not human and you're just like automating stuff, AI is like kind of taking over. So that's why I think that music that is making the top Billboard charts and like radio, and there's a whole artist story over there, there's innovation there, that's still very human. It's the placeholder stuff, which is definitely the first domino to fall. But MJ has like yeah, we've had some amazing back and forth. MJ, yep.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And just one thing to add on this, I don't know if you know Eric Campbell, but he's like an amazing individual in sync licensing, and we've had many conversations about this. And yeah, his take was really interesting. I think he's open to the idea of using AI tooling, but it's the key word is using and not having it replace. So if you're creating sync licensing music, having a tool like Lemonade is really interesting because if you're trying to create like a 30-second snippet for a commercial scene or whatever, get started with a prompt, with like an 8-bar loop, and then, tweak it, make it like actually fine tuned for that commercial scene or whatever. And for you as a sync licensor or someone trying to get sync placements, what's interesting is I feel like it's the name of the game is quality, of course, but quantity as well. So being able to crank out as many different things as you can for different like unique scenarios and using AI as a tool is a great thing. So that's one of like hopefully it can just help speed up and increase your workflow. But number two, to anyone in the sync licensing space or anything of that nature, I think it's important to get smart with AI as well, because talking to Eric, I even talked to him about the idea of like, hey, if you have a bunch of folks who do different subgenres of sync licensing, maybe we can train models with them so they can also have this like, passive revenue income, but also they're serving a need, which is sync licensing. So Lemonade's goal is regardless of where the market shakes out, because Ani said this perfectly, none of us know, regardless of where the market shakes out, we want to keep the artist in the center of the algorithm, whether there's transparency on who it is or there's revenue being kicked back. But I think, yeah, so that's my take.
And that is
No,
a choice. Sorry, so just the last sentence, like I wanted to add, we have agency over this as a community. We don't have to act like, oh, this is AI, it's coming. We are the ones who are making those decisions. So keeping the artist at the center of it all is a choice that we need to make. And at least MJ and I, we're trying to make that every day. And I'm really hoping that we can keep the artist at the center of it throughout all these fronts, sync licensing, other types of music. But yeah,
Yeah.
Nick.
yeah, no, I can see that, you're really looking at using this as a tool, which I think is the best way of using AI, not as a replacement. And you are putting, you're being a very ethical AI company by putting the artist's IP in the center space, which really gives you a solid grounding to build your business on and get on both the business and the artist side as well, and anybody who's like a bit anti-AI, you're like, well, why? This is going to enhance what you're doing. Just to jump, I've got many more questions, but just to jump very quickly back to the, talking about the ethical training. So I totally understand if it was to train on me, but if someone comes in and uses this today, what data has it been trained on, and how have you, have you put that together? Like, where has that come from? Like, how does it know what to write?
Yeah, I love that question. It's literally the most important question that I would argue makes Lemonade different than than the majority of AI music companies. So every single line of data in our algorithm, we've met with, got contracts with, and paid artists for every single line in our data set, right? So in terms of what you're using as a customer, it's a win-win-win situation because as a customer, you actually get the freedom of understanding you're working with an AI tool that's not going to give you any shady copyright concerns or issues because it was from a stolen data set. So for you, if you're interacting with the Cato model, for example, Cato actually has a business agreement with Lemonade. And in that agreement, we verify that Cato actually gave us this MIDI, right? It wasn't stolen from any other category or whatever and said this is his MIDI. So that's step one. And then step two, we have that same protections for our customers on the other end. So for you, when you're interacting with the model, it's really every single line of data is from specific artists we met with. And yeah, that problem in itself took probably a year for us to collect enough data from artists to even have the ability to say that and have this level of quality of algorithm. But it's as simple as that. There's no random shady data sets that are in there that are like powering the algorithm or anything of that nature.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it's really incredible, guys. So I'm an artist, I'm a label manager, and I'm listening to this and going, this is awesome. Can you tell me how I might be able to use your platform to discover and develop new talent?
Of course. So I grew up a rapper, actually. the reason why I even built the first algorithm of Lemonade was because I didn't know music theory. So as a rapper, I've always, every time I would hear a beat, I would know within the first 10 seconds if it's a hit or not based on the melody, right? So I was like, I want to make my own beats. And at the like, I used to work at Google actually, and one of the fundamentals I've learned about AI is what you put in is what you get out. So over my last 2 decades of being a rap artist, I was like, what if I feed it a bunch of data on melodic information to see if it can generate melody snippets? So in terms of developing new talent, for me as a rapper, I became a producer because of Lemonade, right? Because all of a sudden it was able to generate these melodic snippets. And then I love sound selection. To debate if something should be a piano or a trumpet or like a specific EQ, that's the fun stuff that's a lot more intuitive. Even if you don't know music theory, you can play around. So if you're not a producer, Lemonade can make you a producer. And if you are a producer, it can simply increase the amount of hits that you make through giving you inspirational snippets for your workflow.
Gotcha. So, what about some examples of some success stories of some customers that have come on and they've used the artists? Have you got any examples of they've put the music out and it's done really well? It's maybe charted, or their streaming numbers are suddenly going crazy because the quality's got better.
Yeah, totally. So first and foremost, we actually have metrics of the amount of times a MIDI has been or wave has been dragged into the DAW. And at this point, I think it's over 80,000 times that have happened. So hypothetically speaking, the way that we like to look at it, if you take a MIDI into your digital audio workstation, that's a song started. So between 70 to 80,000 songs that have been started to this date is one very, very big metric. Number two, there are some A-list artists that out of nowhere have purchased Lemonade. But simply out of like customer privacy, I just don't want to put them on blast right now. But yeah, definitely some A-list artists. And on top of that, one of our partners as well is someone named Don Cannon. And Don Cannon is like an amazing hip hop mogul. We actually have a podcast with him. And yeah, we go down to Atlanta frequently and like we're making hits using the Lemonade algorithm. So I think the biggest, I guess, thing that I can say confidently on this call on this podcast without any putting anyone on the spotlight, is there's several A-list artists that use Lemonade in their workflow that are Billboard charting and things of that nature, including the four guys we talked about with the Collab Club and folks like Don Cannon, Lex Luger, list goes on. But in terms of actual hits that have been made on the Billboard chart, our goal is to get one this year. I don't know necessarily if there has been one yet, but I do believe in Q4 we're going to hit a Billboard chart with one of these models, and I'm excited for that.
And just to add to that, we do have curated playlists of tracks that people have made using Lemonade. And I believe they're on BeatStars, but I don't know if it's public.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to BeatStars, amazing partner for Lemonade. And on top of that, there's a public playlist. It's called Made with Lemonade. So Lemonade spelled Lemonaide. And then Made is spelled Maide as well. So Made with Lemonade on BeatStars. It's a little playlist. I think there's like 15, 20 tracks in there, but you can't see like full songs that have been created.
And this was done I would say 10 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So if we probably update that playlist, there'll be like hundreds of tracks now. And people on our Discord keep sending us stuff. And I think every now and then you'll get a song sent to you on Spotify as well. So these are just people who are comfortable sharing with you that, hey, I made this using a tool, enjoy it. If we need to find better ways to track in non-intrusive ways as well, that, Lemonade or, a generated melody was used. So we don't even know what's out there.
Well, it's for a startup, I guess. I'm sure that will come further down the line.
And last thing to call out, that's a big problem for a producer, even, right? How many producers upload beats and have no idea where that song is? Imagine that problem, but for like a MIDI file, an 8-bar MIDI file. So it's an interesting one. But I think that the takeaway, at least for me, and how I want people to look at Lemonade, like we're the company who wants you to close Lemonade as quickly as possible. Like get inspired, get back to your DAW, send it to the DSPs, upload it, and just make more music. If we end up one day finding out that we got a Billboard hit because someone reached out, amazing. But there probably are Billboard hits right now that exist because of Lemonade, but we're not going to get credit. And that was never the point. Like the point was to inspire and to be able to, help people make more music. Because if I was an artist, I don't know, at least in 2024, how ecstatic I would be to post about AI, help me get this hit. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it, kind of a taboo topic, even though we're taking it in the quote unquote, good guy approach.
Mm. Well, what would it leads into something I did want to ask you is, what advice would you give to an artist who is hesitant about incorporating AI into their music production process?
Yeah. So first and foremost, just know there's people out there that are artists that are trying to build AI music companies. So it's not like, we're random engineers that are trying to capitalize on the situation. Like music saved my life in many ways. And it's been a huge part of Ani's and the entire Lemonade team as well. So that's point number one. People who care are building AI tools. Number two, one of my favorite opportunities, again, is to go down to Atlanta quite frequently, meet up with Don Cannon and a few other amazing people in the music industry. So I was talking to OG Parker, who is another legendary producer down in Atlanta, and I think Don Cannon asked him a question, and he said, "What's the difference between using an AI loop versus a splice loop?" And the snippets actually on my Instagram page, MJX Music, OG Parker goes, "I see no difference. It's inspiration. It's just using it as a tool, like output, sorry, like arcade, like, splice or whatever." And what's amazing for me is you can battle with yourself all you want to say, I don't want to use AI in my workflow or whatever because it doesn't make me a true musician. But eventually you're going up against the same argument as splice versus making your own music. And then even the idea of like, if you use a digital audio workstation, are you making your own music? So zooming out, I think it's almost like, not to be a therapist, but you got to wrestle with your own ego to be like, is this my song or not? But if you zoom out and realize a tool like Lemonade is just an 8-bar melody snippet, it's no different than a MIDI pack or a splice loop or whatever, then at the end of the day, I think it's a very acceptable thing in today's day and age. But again, I want to harp on what's acceptable is for you as an individual. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
And 100%, I think I echo that completely. And I want to add a little bit here, Nick. I want to give the other perspective as well. So I'm a research scientist by trade. Did that in industry, machine learning research scientist for the last 5 years, 5 to 6 years, and was playing with these models, by the way, on the side when I cross paths with MJ. That's a whole different story. But I would say that to give you a perspective, and if this helps anyone who's still skeptical after that beautifully put perspective by MJ, I would say that the word AI or the phrase AI, man, I have my qualms with it. Like, we came up with this scary entity called AI to hype up funding in the VC world. And we were like, you know what? Let's create this hype and let's get some rounds going. And so now AI is everywhere. AI is coming. It's the big behemoth which is going to take over everything. At the end of the day, it's just really well done, fancy technology under the hood. It's machine learning. It's machine learning that's working really well. And that's all it is. You've been using machine learning for the last 10 years. And imagine that technology just got better. At the end of the day, if you were using Isotope and you were using the RX plugin, or you were using Isotope to remove certain elements from your track or mix it in a certain way, you were using AI all this while, right? And now this technology is getting better. and we are working very hard to make that technology better. And that's all it is. At the end of the day, if you're at the center of your art and you have complete agency over your art, and that's, I feel, it's a more of a feelings question. People feel out of control and like they don't have their agency over their own creation and their own art, and this behemoth AI is going to take over. Well, yeah, this is another way to phrase it. As somebody who's a research scientist in the field, I'm telling you, let's. Internally, I don't even use the word AI because I don't want to create this big, scary behemoth. Uh, it's just fancy technology, and if that helps anyone, there you have it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't really think it's going to completely destroy the music industry like so many people think. It's the
Yeah,
same thing that happened when synthesizers came out in the 80s. And, they were like, anyone can make music now. And, so it's just going to like anybody can do it. And musicians are going to be out of a job.
exactly.
And, they even tried
Yeah.
passing a law here in the UK to ban synthesizers because I think it was Brian Eno. I think it was someone
Yep.
was going to, instead of taking his orchestra on tour, he was going to use synths. But he was like a bit of a forward-thinking person. And so they took that as a like, oh no, this is the future, so now we're going to ban them. It's insane. Like, let's ban synthesizers in the 80s. Like, obviously went completely the opposite way. And I really think
Oh
it's
yeah.
the thing. People want to connect with humans, and that's people still want to go to concerts, and the artists are going to be there doing that. So I'm gonna go on a slightly sideways question, and that's because I know you're both artists and you have background in music and I think marketing to some point. So I like to ask this question of all my guests, which is a very much a marketing real world experience on how I'd like to see you if you became really passionate about an artist and you're like, I'm going to get behind them and I'm going to give them some money. You've got a 3 grand budget to promote a self-releasing artist on their own label. They've currently got 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Their combined social media audience is 25,000 across Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. The catch is they're a non-performing artist, but they make very good, catchy dance music. How would you go about spending your budget to grow the fans and monetize their music in the next 6 months?
I love that question. It excites me so much. Ani, do you want to go first?
Uh, I am that artist actually, and I have no idea what to do. So MJ, please help me out.
All
Yes.
right, perfect. So I'll just talk to Ani on this question. Nah, so a friend of mine, Nick D, if you guys are familiar, incredible artist, and I think he's kind of paved the pathway for this. Um, Number one, it's all about utilizing your social media tools, right? Well, even let's take a step back. What's number zero? What's your goal? If your goal is to actually blow up and be a artist that can make income and have your main job be music, you have to swallow your ego and realize the art is important. It's so important. Never sacrifice the art, but you have to get on social media. You have to leverage those tools. So TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Let's even start with those big three. If I were you, I'd figure out what makes you authentically you and pair that with your music and post 3 to 4 times a day, right? So if you don't want to be in front of the camera, fine. Like, if you're into making coffee, record some yourself making coffee with a hoodie on or whatever, put your music on in the background and like have some catchy caption that's like, hope you have a great day, enjoy this coffee. And I hope that, the song itself can be something that's used as a trend, like the coffee making trend, for example. But to take a step back on that, you never want to sell your music on these videos because people hate when you sell to them, right? So if you're starting this Instagram reel or TikTok or YouTube short with, hey, go check out my music, I'm swiping so quick, So what you want to do is organically live your life, do what's authentically you, put your music in the background, let the music almost be the secondary thing, post 3 4 times a day and be consistent. Consistency is key. And if you actually think about this, you have 3 grand left on top of what I'm talking about because all this content is free for you to create. You can post as many times as you want. Use your iPhone. Don't overthink it. If you have an Android, go buy an iPhone. No, jokes aside, you can use an Android or an iPhone. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need a fancy camera. So like simplify it, post as much as you can, do it consistently. You know, you don't have to use your face. You can use, just music in the background. But do that consistently. And yeah, over time, you'll end up slowly garnering an audience. And as your audience starts to come in through the comments and things of that nature, make sure you interact with them. Don't leave them on red. Like my the biggest thing that's unfortunate is when you see like 10 comments on a post and there's no interactions with it. There's no replies, there's no favorites or whatever. Because, Meta, Google, these companies are smart. They want to promote content that has community interactions. So
So,
if you're interacting with these comments and continuing to, keyword is interact, especially in the first hour of a post, it allows for the algorithm to want to promote it even more and things of that nature. So,
so if I may
so
have a follow up as the artist in this role play, uh, MJ, what if I don't like? I mean, I despise being on social media. That's just, let's say, not my thing. Which, side note, it is not. But what would you say to someone like me in order to even change my perspective to be more open to doing these things? Could I like use that 3 grand better to maybe, offload some of this stuff?
well,
Or could
yeah.
I, or is am I too small right now? Or should I just reach out to friends for, how would you change my psyche around this?
Let's have the conversation right now. Okay, so you're a producer. What's your goal?
My goal is to live off my music full time.
Perfect. What business do you know worked out by not marketing itself?
Yeah, like Tyler, the creator said, none of them. Yeah.
Exactly. So the quicker that you as an artist can see yourself as a business and treat yourself as a business, if your end goal is to do this full time, the
Mm,
quicker you will end up realizing that goal. And a business will never flourish without marketing. So if you can't see yourself as a business, I want you to deeply take this to heart. You're never going to be a full-time artist.
Mm.
mm,
I have to agree. You know what? I have to have this conversation many times with members, and I'm like, it's not impossible, but it is a lot, like almost insanely hard. Like you should start buying a lotto ticket every weekend because you're more likely to win the lotto than become a self-sustained music artist without putting yourself out there. And I think that goes beyond just music. I work in the film industry as well. Whether you're in film, whether you're selling books, you're doing any business, you have to be out there, or you have to have someone in your company who is the face, who's going out there and doing it. You see these big companies and the CEO is out there, just like you guys are right now, putting yourself out there for Lemonade. If you don't do that, how is anybody going to hear about you, and how's your company and your business going to be a success? And that's just the reality. And if someone wants to be, do you know what I say now to someone who's like, but I just want to be a music artist and just write music. That's what I enjoy. I don't want to go out there. Then go and get a publishing deal and become a songwriter for other music, for music performing artists. That's how you can make a money. That is the way it is traditionally done. And that's what you need to do. So focus on getting a publishing deal. That's how you can do it. And if you can't get a publishing deal, then perhaps maybe your music isn't good enough. And maybe you should just always remember, do music as a hobby,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
for real.
Yeah, I think people are too fragile in a way. I think fragile is the best word to use because like we overthink so much. But again, imagine you're sitting on a gold mine. Let's just literally picture a gold mine at home, and you wanted other people to experience the gold mine, and your thought is, nah, I'm not going to tell anyone about it because like I feel like if I tell people about it, it makes the gold mine less valuable. In my mind, I guess I'm more marketing forward. I'm out there being like, yo, I got a gold mine at home. Come check this out. Like that's the only way you can get people to like share, and your music is that gold mine. So here's the last thing I want to share. I think a lot of people believe when you market on TikTok or Instagram, it cheapens your music. Make your music as good as you want. Make it a 10 out of 10. Have your heart in it, but decouple the marketing experience. Marketing does not cheapen your music. It doesn't cheapen your brand, especially if you do it authentically.
Yeah, excellent insights. Love that. It was an excellent answer to the question. I know you're sort of, you're doing a lot of producer-led stuff, like trap. Are you looking to move into the future and doing more band-based music, like indie rock, or possibly even doing like classical music, jazz
Yeah.
music? Is that on the horizon? Is that something you can do? And is there anything else then beyond that? Is there anything else in our music technology that you guys are particularly excited about, that you kind of want to share?
Yeah, I would say my take is the core philosophy for Lemonade is figuring out how AI can help musical artists. End of sentence, right? So in terms of like expanding to other genres, we're absolutely open to it. Right now, we're predominantly hip hop heavy, mainly because we have a lot of hip hop connections, but we're actively looking to expand into genres like EDM, and even country. We were talking about this the other day that like country is like the one of the like most hot genres in the US right now. So the idea of getting more into bands and like, rock music, it's all fair game. It's all on the table, but it's with the core value of, is it genuinely solving a problem for an artist or a musician? If so, we'll find out enough about it. Ideally, people will learn about what we can do and be like, hey, can y'all do this? And when we hear that problem enough times, we can then prioritize it. But the key that we want to do is be the company to, like Ani likes to say this, and I love it. We want to be on the side of the table with artists to help them make money. So it's almost that two-bird stone of like inspirational tooling while getting revenue to the people who helped us build these AI models. That those are like our core values right now. But go ahead, Ani, if you have anything else you want to add.
No, it'll be sick to have Lamb of God in the collab club one day. If like we can figure out how to make that work with MIDI. Maybe Chris Adler, the drummer, maybe the
Well,
drummer.
even to add to your point though, Ani, like jokes aside, it's not just MIDI anymore, right? Like Lemonade is it really like we're doing MIDI generation, but we have the capabilities of doing any and all modalities of
Yeah,
music production, right? So whether it be MIDI melodies, whether it be MIDI drums, whether it be MIDI bass, or whether it even be audio, we have the technical know-how and the algorithms generally built out for multiple modalities of music. But like we talked about earlier, we're just iterating slowly and doing it in a way that's like quote unquote safest for releasing for artists and things of that nature.
Mm. Nice. So, where can people find out about Lemonade.ai? Where,
Hey,
and is there anywhere where if someone wants to follow what you guys are doing, do you want to share your handles?
oh, Ani, what's your Instagram handle? What's your Twitter handle, bro?
yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Anirudh3. So ANIRUDH3. Always there. Always DMs are open. Available to connect. Talk anything under the sun. AI, music, life advice, whatever. Yeah. Find me on Twitter.
Did you just request life advice from the audience?
I was more sort of in favor of giving life advice.
No,
Like
I know, I'm kidding.
one of my
Can you
favorite.
imagine all these people that are like just giving you
But
advice?
but I am always looking for life advice. So if you have any, DM me.
You're just waiting to get your life advice out. Reach out to
Nice.
us.
Oh my, can't wait.
Um,
Nice. Open-minded.
so for me, you can hit me up on most platforms under so Instagram and Twitter at MJX Music. And that's actually my rap alias as well. So if you go to Spotify and type in MJX Music, you'll also be able to learn more about kind of like my kind of my personal music journey in terms of the music that I make. But for Lemonade, which is the reason that we're here, the Instagram handle is Lemonade X Music. And I believe it's actually the same on Twitter as well, or X, whatever we're calling it these days.
Mm.
So again, Lemonade spelled Lemonaide X Music. So those are the majority of our handles, and our website is lemonade.ai. Actually, we offer a free trial as well. So if you want to try out the tool, like it's one of those things where I'm not even worried about the actual credit card transaction. Just try the tool. If you're listening to this, just try it out so you can learn more about what it's like to actually use AI in your workflow and just get a feel for your own take on like, do you want to use AI? What concerns you? What thoughts may you have? And then reach out to us through a support ticket, and we can even jam out in terms of like, ideas or questions or thoughts. But it's a free trial. There's no credit card even required for the free trial. And I see if you are a musician or not, there's no reason why not to give it a shot. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that rhymed so well. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah,
Whether you're a musician or not, there's no reason not to give it a shot.
it's
That's
in your blood. It is in your blood.
that's the snippet. That's
um, Thank you, MJ. Thank you, Arnie. Like, yeah, I've really loved doing this particular podcast. I think you guys are really embracing AI in a ethical and sensible way in the creation process, which is really refreshing. So yeah, thanks for your time. Thank you for your insights on AI and the future.
Nick,
Thank
thank you. Your voice is incredible, by the way. I can tell why you do many podcasts and things of that nature. But yeah, grateful for the time and thank you for giving us an outlet.
Yeah, completely. Thank you so much, Nick. Keep up the awesome work. Yeah, and we have to talk Arsenal sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys.